I ran for 30 straight days. And I grew 2 inches taller. I'm 5'8" now. I ran for 30 straight days. And I lost 1 pound. I ran for 30 straight days. And my resting heart rate dropped by 1 beat. I ran for 30 straight days so that I could make a complete clickbaity bullshit thumbnail that says I ran for 30 straight days and you'd click on it. Hey, it was either that or why the pros run for 30 straight days with a picture of Kipchoge and an arrow pointing to him. Seriously though, I did run for 30 straight days and I am planning on running for 30 straight more in my build up to the Buffalo Marathon, May the 28th, 2023. My name is Andrew, aka Midlife Runner, because I started running in the middle of my life at the age of 40, 409 marathoner. Last month I ran a 3:05 at the Woodlands Marathon, and next month I plan on running a sub 3 in Buffalo. Oh, sub 3, real original. Feel free not to subscribe. By the way, guys, please forgive my setup here. I am traveling. I am in Salt Lake City, poor man's Denver. Whether you land on your forefoot, your midfoot, or your heel, however you land, please use it to strike that like button and subscribe. So there is a difference between a running streak of just 30 days of running and a running streak which is 30 days inside of a training block. Most training plans have their athletes running 6 days a week. So when we talk about running 30 straight days, we're talking about adding maybe 4 or 5 days total to what I was already running. I did not get any taller. My hemorrhoids did not go away. I just unsubscribed. That's not to say that these extra 4 or 5 days of running aren't challenging. I have to continue to run after extremely challenging long runs. For example, long run number 1, 5 mile zone 2, 5 mile zone 3, and a 6 mile 10K threshold finish. Long run number 2, a 20-mile long run with 8 of those miles at marathon pace, and then 10 by 400 meters, and a 3-hour long run, which ended up being 23 miles, 2 times 10 miles progressive blocks. And these long runs, as the training continues, are going to get progressively more challenging. So how do I run the day after a long run? Number 1, I only run 4 or 5 miles. Number 2, I run very slowly. For me, it's going to be about a 9-minute a mile pace. 3, do a body scan by stretching and foam rolling. Foam rolling. Now, it is really important to note that when I woke up on those days after the long run, I did not feel like going for a run. My body was like, I do not feel bonita. It is also important to note after a dynamic warm up and a stretch, even when I started running, it felt like I was kind of in a hobble, like I was hobbling along for the first 400 meters. But by 800 meters, blood was working its way to the muscles and I started to feel better. By the end of the run, I felt great. And ironically, this sped up my recovery versus taking a day off. It's like 10,000 spoons. Now you need to fork. Knife. After my run, I make my way to the gym and I work out all the areas I've identified as being sore. Aggressive. Here's what that injury prevention looks like. Now, what I've learned over the last 3 years is that when my body is sore, it's because it's weak. And what I need to do is I need to go in and strengthen that muscle or around that muscle so that it doesn't get as sore. And this has worked wonders for me to continue my training. Here are a list of examples. So when I have sore shins or anterior tibialis, I will pull the band toward me. For a sore soleus, which is just below the calf, I will do single leg calf raises. For peroneal tendinitis, which is felt along the sides of the leg, they really support and stabilize the ankle. I do what I call banded foot wiggles. And if I'm feeling soreness along the sides of the leg with those ankle stabilizers and the peroneal tendinitis, I will also switch shoes. I find oftentimes it's after a long run with a lot of stack, so I do something more minimal so I get more ground contact feel. In this particular 4-week block, I did feel some sore hips. So traditionally what I would do is like a banded march, or I would set up the dumbbells and I would lift my legs out and over them, or you can put 2 off to the side and do a single leg over those and back. Now in this particular block with my sore hips, I was able to identify specifically where that pain or soreness and tightness was coming from, and it was on the internal rotation of my hips. So whenever I did dynamic warm-ups or stretches and I'm picking my leg up and taking it back, I did not feel it externally, but I felt a slight pinch when I came in internally. So the Google recommendation here is going to be the 90 and 90 sits. Next up, we have patellar tendonitis. This is soreness just below the knee. If it's really, really sore, you can do a wall sit, or if it's just ordinary sore, which it was slightly in my case, this can be combated with squats. If you're feeling soreness in your glute med, which is this area right here, you can do leg lifts. You could do banded walk side to side. Lastly, if you are feeling soreness in your hammies, you can do a glute bridge with weights between your buttocks and the heels of your foot. It is important to note that when you lift, you're going to pull back in your heels and your foot should not come up, and you're going to peel your spine off of the ground 1 vertebrae at a time. You want to hold for 3 seconds at the top and then come back down. It's really important here is you want to make sure that you're not arching your back and you're not feeling a lot of stress in your lower back. You should be able to feel this in your hamstrings. All of those things are things that have helped me in my past. I'm certainly not telling you to do any of that stuff. I'm not a doctor, blah, blah, blah. Moving on. So I ran for 30 straight days. How much faster did I get at the end of it? The short answer is that I don't know, because I didn't run a 5K, I didn't do a math test, I didn't do any sort of test before, and then some sort of test after. I'm in the middle of running 60 straight days, so I'm just doing a check-in. I do have one metric that I can look at. The only metric I can look at that I know of is my marathon race predictor times. They were a 3:09:50. I basically ran over the 4-week period about 63 miles a week, and my time, my marathon race predicted time, went down by 2 minutes. If I do another 30 days with about 65 miles a week, I'm looking at about a 3:01 to 3:02, down from a 3:09 over the course of those 2 months. Also important to note that myself, me against that marathon pace race predictors, I tend to finish 4.5 to 5 minutes in front of whatever it predicts. So if it predicts a 3:01 or 3:02, that would be fantastic. Foam rolling. If you want to learn more about this training block for Buffalo, click this ridiculously absurd video right here. All right, I got to get back to work. Thanks for watching.